Good morning, children. In today's session, we are going to take up the second part of the chapter, the chapter 1, Meeting Cezanne. And as in the previous session, we had read in the book that Yannick, who unknowingly, he had thrown a beautiful painting which had been drawn by the most famous artist in the world, unknowingly, out of ignorance, he had thrown it into a fire because he did not know anything about it. So, Amandine, his cousin, was very upset about this, and even Yannick was upset. So, in this part, we are going to see what Yannick does to set the things right. Okay, so take out your book on page 2. Page 2, I think we were reading and we'd left it on paragraph 16. We had finished it till paragraph 16. We are going to start with paragraph 17 today. So, children, you have your book ready with you and a pencil. So, even Amandine, she understood that it was not Yannick's fault, and she said sorry to Yannick, and Yannick also said sorry, and he said that he did not want to upset her. So we move on to the 17th paragraph now. Then she smiled at me. So Amandine, who is she here? Amandine, she smiled at Yannick. Both the brother sisters, they were good. They were happy now. They had made up. I lay awake all night. So I is Yannick here, and whole night he could not sleep. Lay awake. Awake means to not able to sleep. My mind racing, all his mind was thinking about something all night. Somehow I was going to make it all right again and make Amandine happy. So what was he thinking about whole night? What kept him awake all night? He was thinking how to undo the things which he had done unknowingly. Actually, it was not a mistake, but things had happened and he wanted to set them right now. So how he is going to set them right and how he is going to make Amandine happy. So soon I had worked out exactly what and how to do it. And soon he had worked out. Underline the word worked out. Actually, it's a phrase when there are two words used together. We don't call it a word, we call it a phrase. Okay, so worked out means he had found out, he had calculated how he is going to do and what he is going to do. And how he's going to do it, even when I was going to say when the time came. Even what I was going to say when time came. But he knew it when the time that he will be able to do the things right. He will be able to set the things right only when it was the right time, when the right time came. So we move on to page 3 now. Next morning, I didn't go for my walk in the hills, but made my way down through the village towards the chateau. So next morning, that means he did not go down for a walk in the hills. That shows that every day he was going for a walk in the hills every morning. But that day we can say, he did not go for the walk in the hills. In place of that, where did he go? He went down through the village and he reached the chateau. Chateau, you remember, is a large, big palace type of building, castle in the countryside. I waited till there was no one about. So he waited till there was no one about. No one about means there was no one around. I climbed the gates easily enough. So he climbed onto the gates. Actually, he did not enter through the gate. He climbed onto the gate easily. He was able to do it easily. And then ran down through the trees and he went inside through the trees. There, surrounded by the vast and threatening forests, on all sides was the old man with very little hair who had come to the inn. And when he walked through the trees, he saw that the man was sitting there. He recognized the man who had come to their inn with the very little hair. And where he was sitting? He was sitting in the large, huge, vast, threatening. Threatening means something which is fearful, which is dreadly. So he was sitting in that forest among the trees, and he was maybe painting or doing something. So Yannick was able to recognize him. He was sitting alone on the steps in the sunshine and sketching. And he was sitting alone there in the steps, kind of stairs we can say. And he was sketching, he was drawing something. I approached as silently as I could. I approached. Approached means he went towards him. Approach means he went towards him very, very silently so that he does not get disturbed. But somehow I must have disturbed him. But the man came to know that Yannick was there. So he looked up, shading his eyes against the sun. So that man looked towards Yannick, and he kept his hands onto his eyes to shade his eyes from the sun. "Hello, young man," he said. Now that I was this close to him, I could see he was indeed very old. And now that Yannick was standing very, very close to him, and Yannick was only noticing him, he noticed that, he was very, very old. But his eyes were young, bright, and searching. But his eyes, they looked quite young and bright and searching. So he describes his looks now. "Are you Monsieur Cezanne, the famous painter?" Now again, the stars there in the word. Look at the pronunciation. It is Monsieur. So Monsieur. So he asked him that, "Are you Monsieur Cezanne?" Actually, Monsieur is a word for respect which we use for Mr. or Sir. So he called him, "Are you Monsieur Cezanne, the famous painter?" I asked. He seemed a little puzzled. So I went on. So he seemed a little puzzled. That why this man is, why Yannick is asking like this. So Yannick continued his talk. He said, "My mother says you are the greatest painter in the world." So just to make him understand that how come this young boy knows about him. So Yannick tells that, "My mother says that you are the world's greatest painter." He smiled and then laughed. So that man, he smiled and started laughing. "I think your mother's probably right." And now he tells him that, "You are right. Your mother's probably right. You clearly have a very wise mother." So he continues, he says, "Your mother is very wise. She knows this. But why did she let a young lad like you come wandering here on his own?" And then he asks another question that, "Your mother seems to be very wise as she knows about me, but why did she let you come here? A young lad," lad means a boy, a young boy like you, come wandering here on his own, lonely. On his own means alone. So underline the phrase on his own. On his own means alone. Okay, so we move on to paragraph 22. I explained why I had come and what I wanted. So Yannick now told the reason that why he had come there and what he wanted. He looked at me with furrowed brows and said, so that man, he looked at Yannick with furrowed brows. Furrowed brows means wrinkled brows. His brows, he had put them together, wrinkled them together, showing confusion or curiosity. He was not able to understand exactly. So then he says, "I remember you now from last night. Of course, I'll draw another picture for Bruno." And now he says, "Oh yes, now I remember. You have come from that inn." And of course, he says, "I'll draw another picture for Bruno. What would he like?" And then he asks Yannick, "What would he like? Which picture should I draw for him?" "No, better still, what would you like?" And then he corrects himself and he says, "Better, I think, what would you like? Because this picture is going to be for you." "I like sailing boats," I said. "Can you do boats?" So he showed his choice. He tells his choice. He says, I like sailing boats. Can you do boats for me? Can you draw boats for me? I'll try, he replied with a smile. It didn't take him long. So it didn't take him long. That means he was able to finish it quite soon. He drew fast, never once looking up. So he drew very, very fast. Not even once he looked up. He drew with full concentration. He did not get disturbed in between. But as he worked, he asked me about where I'd seen sailing boats, about where I lived in Paris. But while he was drawing, he was asking all sorts of questions from Yannick, where Yannick lived in Paris and where he had seen the boats. And he said he loved Paris and sailing boats too. And he also told that he also loved sailing boats and Paris. So we come on to paragraph 26 now. There he said, tearing the sheet from his sketch book and showing me. And then after he had finished the picture, he tore the page from the book and he showed it to Yannick. What do you think? And he asked him, what do you think? It is good or not? 4 sailing boats were racing over the sea out and beyond a lighthouse, just as I had seen them in Brittany. So, he had drawn the exact picture with as Yannick wanted, or as Yannick had seen in Brittany. Brittany is the name of the place. But I saw he'd signed it Picasso. But the different one thing which Yannick noticed was that he signed the picture. Painters, they always sign the picture after they make it. And this time he had signed it as Picasso. Picasso. The pronunciation is Picasso. So he was a little confused because what Yannick knew him that his name was Cezanne, because all were calling him Cezanne. I thought your name was Cezanne, I said. So Yannick, out of curiosity, he asked him that I think your name is Cezanne. He smiled up at me. How I wish it was, he said sadly. And he answered very sadly that I really wish my name would have been Cezanne. Then he added, off you go now. And then he quickly added that off you go now. That means your picture is done and you can go now. So children, I hope you liked the story, and I'll mention one thing here, that whenever children we finish the story, you must at least sit and read the chapter 2 times. It will be very, 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 very good for you in your long run. Your spellings will be improved, your vocabulary, you learn new words, and you'll get the details of the story also. So attempting MCQ types or long answer types, subjective or objective, things will be very easy for you, and reading is always better and enjoyable. You must read, children. Okay, read your chapter 2 times. So bye for now, and then later on we'll move to the exercises part. Thank you and have a nice day.